Most people have like a financial figure, right? But once you hit it, loads of people say that they don't feel content. They don't feel fulfilled. They may feel content, but they don't feel fulfilled. But I feel like the fulfillment piece comes from your contribution and giving to others and actually making your life meaningful. And while financial freedom is great, I don't think it will give you like the butterflies, the goosebumps. I don't think like those emotions happen when you see a figure in your bank because it's just a number. But when you can see impact, when you can think of an idea and then see it with your eyes, I feel like that's super powerful.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Need to Succeed podcast. This is a podcast where we have incredible conversations with incredible entrepreneurs just to really understand like what is their need to succeed. Because here's the thing, two people can go through the exact same situation. One person decides because of that situation, they can no longer achieve the things they want to achieve in life. And the other person decides because of the exact same situation that they absolutely have to achieve their dreams. Same situation, different outcomes. What is the mindset of the successful entrepreneur? That is exactly what we look to uncover on this podcast. And today, we have an absolutely incredible guest. She is doing incredible things within the health and beauty space. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Jamelia.
Hey.
What's going on?
That's a lovely intro.
Did you like it?
Yeah, full of energy.
Thank you very much. When I came to you, it was like you were still like taking it in. You're like, I'm still listening.
I was enjoying it. I mean, I felt like I was in the audience. It was great.
Awesome, man. That's good. First of all, thank you so much for being on here.
You're welcome.
I'm super excited to have you on here, especially the things that you're doing in the space for the community as well. Really, we're just talking about me having a daughter and you know, how important it is, you know, what you're doing for as she continues to grow up and how she feels about herself and her self-esteem and things like that. So thank you for that.
You are welcome.
Awesome stuff. So let's get into this because I'm buzzing to get started, right? Now, we've got a tradition on the podcast, which I kept a secret from you.
Okay.
Yeah. Don't worry, it's nothing crazy. But there's only two set questions, which is the first one and the last one. The rest of it, we're just getting to know you, have a conversation and see where we go, right?
Sure.
So here we go. What does success actually mean to you?
Success for me is freedom and expression. So time freedom, financial freedom, location freedom, and then expression as far as like just being able to bring my thoughts and my ideas into fruition into the world is really, really important for me. So like to feel as though I'm actually having a contribution while I'm here and that I'm not wasting my ideas, my talents, my skills.
Yo, that is powerful. Like the first part, normal, that's what, you know, I hear all the time. It's what freedom means for me as well. Time freedom, do what you want, when you want, all of that. But that freedom of expression is one that I think people don't actually realize how important that is until you have it. To be able to think of something and say, okay, you know what, I'm thinking about this, I'm going to make it happen, I'm going to bring it to life. Like having that ability, to me, that's where the real freedom is.
Yeah,
because otherwise,
like magic.
It's like magic.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it stays in your head all this time. And that's what people say when they're on their deathbed and they're thinking about all these things that they could have done and they never did because they were chasing something else. And ultimately, people end up down with regret.
Yes.
But when you can just think of something, you know what, I'm just going to try it.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
I think it keeps you... It makes sure that you continue to learn. It makes sure that you continue to develop and grow. And I think it stops you from feeling content because, let's be honest, most people have like a financial figure, right? But once you hit it, loads of people say that they don't feel content or they don't feel fulfilled. They may feel content, but they don't feel fulfilled. But I feel like that the fulfillment piece comes from your contribution and giving to others and actually making your life meaningful. And while financial freedom is great, I don't think it will give you like, I mean, I'm not there yet. I'm very much looking forward to it, but I don't think it will give you like that, like the butterflies, the goosebumps. I don't think like those emotions happen when you see a figure in your bank because it's just a number. Yeah. But when you can see impact, when you can, as you said, like think of an idea and then see it with your eyes, I feel like that's super powerful.
100%. And the truth is, those two things are actually not mutually exclusive.
Not at all.
right? It's like you get the financial freedom. A lot of times that gives you the
I
capacity.
think absolutely. I think they're intertwined.
Yeah.
Like I feel like financial stability is like foundational for beginning that process of like having an idea and bringing it to life. I feel like it must be quite difficult to try to bring an idea to life without having like a solid financial foundation. Otherwise, you're going to be worried about things that you shouldn't be worried about instead of trying to get in your creative genius.
100%. Listen, I ain't got time to be thinking about no creativity when I'm hungry. I don't know
Yeah.
how I'm going to pay the bills tomorrow.
Yeah.
I've got this debtor chasing me. That one's chasing me for this.
Yeah.
Like, you can't think. That's
No.
just clouding your mind, right?
Absolutely.
So 100%, I could agree more. But I love that. No one's ever said that, like like expression. You said it straight away. That was my next question. When you said, financial freedom, you said expression. I said, I've got to ask her what she means by expression, right? So I'm glad you went on to actually explain it before I got there. But that's really powerful. Really, really powerful. Okay, cool. So let's get to find out a little bit more about you, because I think for me, I think that in itself probably gives me a little bit of an insight into like who you are and the way that you view the world. But I could be wrong. So we're gonna
Maybe.
find out. Yeah. So let's just take it back, right? Because I feel, and I stole this question from Stephen Bartlett, but I like it. Right? I like the question because he says he feels like who we are today. There's normally a defined. You're like, do you listen to his podcast?
I do occasionally, yeah.
I feel like you're like, yeah, I know where you're going with this question, right? But it's like define the moments, or not so much define the moment, but there's normally something that happens, as a child. There's some moments that happen that almost kind of defines your character, as you become older. Do you feel like you ever had one of those as a kid?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think I can pinpoint like maybe one in my childhood, one in like my teens, of moments in my life that were definitely defining moments. But I think therapy also helps you look back and realize that, oh, wow, I actually do this because of this. And so I think through therapy, I could add a third one where I'm like, oh, okay, maybe that's why I do this, because this happened quite early on.
Amazing. Let's knock them off. Let's start at the beginning.
Sure. So I'll go in chronological order.
Yeah.
So the one that therapy helped me realize was that when I was young, so I've got two brothers. I've got an older brother and a younger brother. When I was young, my older brother had a lot of like health complications, which meant that he was in intensive care and in the hospital for literally years. Like Great Ormond Street was pretty much his home for like 3 to 4 years. And what I didn't realize, but now I look back, I'm like, oh, okay, maybe that's why, was that my parents were very much like wrapped up with him and needed to prioritize him. But equally, my mum is like very mindful. So she tried to like make sure that I had a lot of undivided attention as well. But I think for that reason, when I was younger, I was very much into performing arts. And now that I look back, I'm like, oh, maybe I was into performing arts because I wasn't naturally getting a lot of attention. And I shouldn't have been, because my brother was ill. My brother's doing absolutely well now. Like he's amazing. But now I realize, oh, okay, at that time, maybe that's why I was so much into dance. And like literally people would be watching TV in the front room and I would stand in front of the TV and be like, watch my show, and like start performing for them, which must be so annoying. But equally, I think it's really cute now. But now when I look back, I'm like, oh, okay, that's probably why I done that, because that was like my moment to have everyone's undivided attention. And perhaps I didn't have much of that when I was growing up. So that was one moment. The second moment was when my mum got a job in Atlanta to become a teacher. So my mum's always been a teacher. Funny enough, her mum was a teacher. So like the women in my family are pretty much teachers, educators. She got a job in Atlanta, which meant that me and my brother moved to Atlanta during elementary. So I went to elementary school in Atlanta. And that was massive for me because obviously everyone's got like this massive picture of America. I've got family there, so I had been before, but I'd never been into Atlanta or stayed in Atlanta. And when we went there, I was just taken aback by like the level of Black excellence and Black success. To me, it was mind blowing. Like I had never seen Black people operate at all levels of society. I feel like in the UK, you see Black people working class, maybe a few in middle class, and then it pretty much ends there. In Atlanta, we literally occupy every level of society. And I was like, this is so inspiring. Yeah, it just completely shifted my perspective, and I definitely think it like heightened my expectations of my own life, because I was like, okay, if this is what life could look like, I'm not going to settle for something that looks like what I'm used to seeing in the UK.
Wow.
So that was definitely a moment.
What an experience. What an
Yes.
experience. 'Cause I always talk about the fact that if you can't see it, it's not that you can't achieve it, but it makes it a whole lot more difficult to actually achieve.
Absolutely.
But when you've got a vision of something, you understand where you're heading to, but you understand what's also possible and you can taste it, smell it, feel it,
Yeah.
then you absolutely can achieve it. And, I haven't done this yet, but maybe I should because, I listen to a lot of motivational content. They always say, bro, go drive that Ferrari.
Yeah.
Go and view this property.
Yeah.
You and your missus and your daughter, go and view this property. Walk around it like
Yeah.
this is gonna be my yacht. Like
Yeah.
this is where we're gonna be living
Yeah.
in next year, 2 years time, and really bask in that environment because it's just something to having that physical component that makes it real, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I think you absolutely can't. Well, it's easier to believe it when you see it. And it's even easier to believe it when you see people who look like you occupying the spaces that you wish to occupy or like living a lifestyle that you wish to live. I think it makes it a lot easier as well. And then the final point, very sad one, but while I was in university, I lost one of like my best university friends. And that for me was like a massive wake up call of like how temporary life is and how like literally like there's just a limited amount of time and we get to choose what we do with it. And I think that made me really time conscious to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm actually just not going to waste my time. I'm not going to waste my life. Like I'm going to be really intentional about the things that I do because I know that once I leave here, I at least want to have made some form of dent or impact on the earth before I go. And so that for me was probably like one of the biggest like turning points in my life, I would say.
Yo, like that's like you know them. You're just like that, and each one of those makes a lot of sense to me. Each one of those is very, very poignant, right? Like it's like every single one of those makes sense, and it's good that you're able to obviously through therapy or whatever it might be.
Yeah,
you've been able to really pinpoint those, and I'm guessing when is that vivid and that clear, then you hold it with you every day.
Yeah.
And that drives.
I guess you try to. Yeah.
Say that again.
I guess you try to, but yeah.
Amazing. Okay, cool. So let's break down each one of those and see how you would say that's reflective in who Jamelia is today.
Yeah.
If it is, right. So the first one, are you still a show off?
No, I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm actually like I used to be such an extrovert as a kid. And then as soon as I got to teenage years, I became so shy. And now I think I'm like a balance between the two.
Yeah.
Like if a camera's on, I can perform. But generally speaking, I'm quite laid back.
What happened?
And I think it's like self-image. Like I place so much emphasis on representation, not in like the stereotypical way where everyone always uses it as a buzzword, but like true representation. Because I remember looking at myself in the mirror after watching TV and being like, I look nothing like these girls. Like, what am I going to look like when I'm older? Because I don't look like these women who are deemed to be beautiful. And so I probably can't be. So I think that definitely injured my self-confidence. I don't know what the other things were, but I think it is also like the hormones and the emotions that you go through as a young girl going through puberty. Like it's just a lot. And I think that stripped me of a lot of my confidence. And then I think probably comments from other kids of like, a comment that I always used to get in primary school was like, I used to get in trouble a lot for being the leader or the ringleader. And then I also used to get comments like, oh my God, Jamelia, like it's not all about you. Or like just things that told me that it wasn't okay to take up space. And I think that I internalized them. But now I think I have the discernment to know, okay, there are times when absolutely all eyes should be on me. But equally, there's times when I need to make sure that the eyes are on someone else, or I need to platform someone else, or like I can fall back and allow someone to have their moment. As a child, I don't think I had that discernment. It was pretty much like the Jamelia show, I think.
Yeah, of course. But
which is normal.
I was gonna say exactly. That is pretty normal for kids, but it's good that you're able to. But that comes with hindsight, right? You look at the situation, and it's not just a case of it's scarred you. I'm not. You know what? I not have to remain introvert because I don't want people to. You're like, well, actually, I'm able to process the information, understand the good and the bad of it, and actually use that to your advantage. Because there should be time where it's about other people as well, right?
Yeah.
But there should also be time where it's like absolutely about yourself, and the fact that you've been able to juxtapose those two positions is pretty cool.
Yeah, I will say that when I have children, and in particular a daughter, like that is the part of her that I would want to protect the most. So that, because the world tells you that, especially as a girl, like you shouldn't be taking up space, like you should be quiet and you should be timid and you should be polite. But I absolutely love when I see like little girls who are just so outspoken, so over the top, so extra, because the world is going to strip that from them. So as much as we can protect them from that, then we absolutely should.
Do you feel like that affected a part of your, maybe your teen to your early 20s or?
Yeah, I feel like I genuinely only really started stepping into myself when I was like 25, 26. Like it was actually quite late that I started to feel like, oh, okay. And it's genuinely like 27, 28 when I was like, oh, okay, I think I look quite good. Like, yeah, I think I can make this work. But ahead of then, it was like just a constant comparison and it was just really uncomfortable.
And what was that? Obviously, yeah, you mentioned the kids, but now you're 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, right?
Yeah.
So what prolonged that process?
I think it was the same thing. It was just media, except now it was social media, right? So now there was girls that looked my age but looked a lot older than me and a lot more refined than me, and it was like, again, that game of comparison,
Filters.
yeah, literally all of it. So I think, yeah, it was the same problem, just in a different form.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, understood. Okay, brilliant. Well, not brilliant, but, but yeah, that makes sense. It's probably, I mean, yeah, definitely a huge part of it's a female struggle, but I know there's a lot of guys that kind of go through that as well.
And that's what I underestimated. I underestimated how much men actually struggle with self-image as well, which is really interesting.
It's tough. It's a competitive world as a man. Listen,
Yeah.
like, bro, if you haven't got your shit together,
Yeah.
you're just, listen, no one's looking at you.
Yeah.
Society expects certain levels from you as a man. And
Yeah.
if you're not hitting those markers, then listen, other men who are, they get disposed and you get nothing. Right? And obviously as a man or as a boy, and you're seeing this even from a younger age, obviously it can have an impact on a lot of guys' self-esteem, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
So yeah, I hear that. But with that said, so when did you actually go to Atlanta?
I was 9 when I went to Atlanta.
Okay, so all of this was happening over in America.
As in-
How long were you in America for? So did you go to school over there?
Oh, okay. So I went to school there for a year.
Okay.
So I came back in year 6.
Okay.
And then finished primary school, went to secondary school, so on and so forth.
Okay.
But then I did actually go back to the States during university. And then when I got my grad job, I asked them to move me to the New York office as well. So,
Yeah.
like, a love affair with New York, I would say.
Yeah. So when you at what age did you graduate?
I graduated at 22.
22. What
Yeah.
did you study? Where'd you go?
I went to Aston University in Birmingham.
Yeah.
And I done business and international relations.
Nice. Why that?
I didn't want to do that course. I wanted to do law because I thought I was going to be a lawyer, because
Yeah.
my mum was like, Jamelia, you're always arguing. You should probably take up law. And I was like, okay. So I really wanted to be a lawyer. As I mentioned, my mum's an educator. So when it got to secondary school and to make decisions for college, she was like, I know everyone's doing A-levels, but I want you to look at something else called the International Baccalaureate. And I was like, okay, what is it? And she was like, if you get this qualification, you can go to university anywhere in the world. Whereas if you do A-levels, you're going to have to take a new set of exams in whichever country you go to. So I was like, okay. So in the end, I done the International Baccalaureate, which is 7 subjects at A-level standard rather than 4, which was intense. One of them being languages, which is not my strong point, which meant that I didn't get the grade that I really needed to study law. So I needed 34 points to study law and I got 32 points. And I was gutted. I wanted to go to Aston to study law. And then my mum was like, look, you can go to another university and do law, or you can go to Aston and do a different course. And I'm very stubborn. So like when I've got a vision in my head of like where I'm going and what I'm doing, it's really hard for me to shake it. So I was like, I'm going to go Aston anyway, and I'm just going to do a different course. And I saw business and international relations, and I was like, I don't actually care about the business part, but I really care about the international relations part because I love traveling. And so I was like, let me just do this course.
That's what you saw in that, traveling.
Yeah, literally. I was like, let me travel. And then I saw that it was a 4-year degree. And in the 3rd year, you needed to get experience. I was like, perfect. I'll get international experience in that year. And within the safety of being in a university degree program. And then I'll come back, graduate, and then figure out life from there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I wanted to study law. Ended up studying business and international relations. But I'm really proud of how I conducted myself in that degree because I absolutely made the most of it.
Yeah, smashed it.
Yeah.
Nice, nice. If you don't mind talking about it, what happened with your friend?
She actually committed suicide. Yeah, it was so random, so out of the blue, and I can genuinely remember the last time I saw her. We had just got back from Christmas and we both worked in retail. So we both worked in the Bullring. I worked in Deben and she worked in Selfridges, and they were like at opposite ends. So we would always like go to work together or like come and see each other on our breaks. And so I remember the last time I saw her was when I went to see her at, she used to work at Topshop in Selfridges. I went to see her, like we caught up after Christmas and then was like, all right, cool. Like we'll go back to our dorms and then we'll meet up. And like, we always used to cook dinner together or like make Oreo milkshakes. And then I was sleeping one day and then someone like knocked down the door and was like, but they wouldn't stop knocking. And I was like, what the hell is going on? Like I was napping because I was a student. And yeah, then they opened the door and there was like, someone's on the phone. And I was like, who? And then he told me who was on the phone. And it was like someone who went to our uni that knew her from her area. And they was like, she passed away. And I was like, what do you mean she passed away? Like I was literally just with her. And they were like, yeah, she passed away. She took her life. And at that point I was like, I'm done. Like I'm not doing uni. I'm going home. And I just needed to go home. And so I went home, but then I ended up coming back and completing it.
Well, was there any signs that you could see?
No.
Or any struggles that you knew that she was going through, anything at all like that?
No, literally nothing.
That's crazy, isn't it? And that's why I want to talk about, empathy and, you never know what anyone's going through. People just kind of walk through life and, we'll go through situations and someone might do something to us and, we make a snap judgment, not really realizing what could actually be going through people's life. How do you feel like that affected you in terms of how you looked at, not yourself and how short life is, but how you viewed relationships?
I don't know how much it had of an impact on relationships.
When I say relationship, I don't mean like your relationship with like a partner. I just mean like with people and not really understanding, what people could actually be going through or anything at all. Did that have like because for me, I feel like if one of my very, very close friends, I don't even want to think of any one of them, right?
Yeah.
But it's someone who I'm close with and, I didn't see any signs and that has to happen, that would have a profound effect on me. And anytime I'm speaking to someone, probably for a long time, I'll just be thinking, do I even know you? Like, what's going through your mind? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, are you cool? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, did that kind of affect you in any way like that or not really?
I would say the empathy piece, was a big part of it. Like, understanding that people aren't always what they present to be. And sometimes it's because they can't. Like sometimes people genuinely can't communicate what is going on or like what's really happening. I think it made me, I feel like I've got quite a strong intuition anyway. So it did make me feel more convicted about like reaching out to people. But I would also say that it does riddle you with guilt, that can make you do the opposite. So if I weren't checking up on people, like sometimes if I don't check up on people, I start feeling really guilty and like really horrible. And that's just a horrible spiral. So I would say it impacted me positively and negatively.
Yeah.
Like it did make me trust my intuition a bit more about like, if you're thinking of this person, just reach out. But equally, it made me feel, and to this day makes me feel really guilty. Like if I don't speak to someone, I feel like, oh my God, if something happens, it's my fault. When that's not the truth. Like the reality is that life happens to everyone, and sometimes you have the capacity to show up for people and sometimes you don't, and you shouldn't feel guilty for either.
Wow, very, very powerful. Yeah, I completely agree, but I can see exactly how it could affect you in that way. Okay, cool. So now you are, so we've kind of gone through that period. You're now 25. You're starting to blossom in terms of actually thinking, actually, you know what? Like, I'm feeling myself. Like, I'm all right. Like this is
absolutely.
Yeah, this is good. So, like, first of all, was there anything that triggered that turnaround for you? Like, what started to give you that confidence in yourself?
My hair. Like, genuinely, my hair. I've always been so obsessed with hair. Literally, from the time I was in nursery, I would get in trouble because I wasn't listening. I was playing with someone's hair. By the time I was in secondary school, I was earning money by doing people's hair in the lunch breaks and after school. I've always been really obsessed with hair, but up until about 20, my perception of myself was that if my hair wasn't straight, I didn't look pretty. So I also thought that I looked super young if I didn't have straight hair, which kind of plays into like the whole beauty standard self-image thing, because as a teen, I didn't develop until quite late anyway. So I looked childish. And then if my hair wasn't straight, then I looked even younger, and I was really self-conscious about that. And so it got to the point where I was like, look, I can't keep straightening my hair forever. Went to a hairdresser's. She done my hair. I went there to get my hair straightened. And then when she washed my hair, she was like, oh my God, Jamelia, your hair's such a beautiful texture. Why don't you wear it in its natural state? And I was like, absolutely not. Like, I'm going to look about 10 if I do that. And she was like, okay. And she kind of just left it. But little does she know that she actually planted the seed for what Treasure Tress is today. Wow. Then I got home and I was like, do you know what? I'm actually sick of my hair remaining the same length. Let me find out how I can grow my hair longer. So I literally remembered Googling, like, does black hair grow? And then when I done that, it's a valid question.
We ain't got no protein in our hair.
It absolutely does. And there were so many forums and blogs of like black women with really long, luxurious hair, really healthy hair. And I was like, oh my gosh, like it actually is possible. The only catch was all of them were in America. All of the products that they were using weren't available in the UK. So then I started ordering products from Amazon.com, and I was paying customs and delivery fees. So in uni, I was genuinely spending like £80 a month to try new products. And I was like, this is not sustainable. This is not realistic. Fortunately, I made sure that one of my internships was in New York in uni, which meant that I could try all of the products in the world and like explore my natural hair in all its glory. And
you really like were into your hair that much?
Oh my gosh. If I was at home and I was bored, I would just like play with my hair, or I would like go in the bathroom and read the labels and the back of the packaging of products. I absolutely, like, to this day, I still do that. I absolutely love it. Like, I really, really love it. So I was like, okay, while I'm in New York, I can try all of these products. And then I discovered that there were events centered around products. There were conferences centered around like black beauty. And I was like, oh my God, this is actually like my world. This is the thing that I love. And while I was there, I also discovered the subscription business model. And I was like, this is really cool. Like, if you live in America, you can have subscriptions for anything, like dog food, socks, sweets, hair, makeup, literally everything. And then I looked back in the UK and we had absolutely nothing. So I was like, okay, if by the time I get back to the UK, there's not a subscription box specifically for exploring your natural hair, then I'll create it. The one thing that I was missing was the financial security because I had been interning for free. I'd done an internship in Beijing for a month unpaid, and then I'd done New York for just under a year unpaid. And I was like, my first priority is to earn money.
The exposure's nuts though.
Yeah, absolutely. Like that experience, I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Yeah.
Then when I got back, I was like, right, let me get an internship where I can earn money and earn money quite quickly. So I was like, finance pays well. Let me go to finance. So I got a job as an intern at a asset management firm, and then finished my placement year there. Went back to uni, and they had offered me a grad job for when I graduated. So fortunately, when I graduated, I had a job waiting for me. And while I was there, for the first year, I was like all in. Second year, I was all in, but I was thinking like, I just don't feel fulfilled. Like, I don't feel like I'm expressing myself. I don't feel like I'm being creative. And so I was like, let me start Treasure Tress as an Instagram page and see what happens. And so, yeah, I started as an Instagram page, finally launched the landing page, launched the website with our first customers. And then I was doing both for, I want to say, a period of about 8 months. And then I was like, this is not sustainable. Like, I was going to bed at like 2 a.m., waking up at 5, working till like 6:30, borderline 7, then getting to the office, working till 7 p.m., and then coming back. And I was like, this isn't realistic. Like, I can't do this. And so I decided at that point that I was going to just go for it and see what happens and figure it out. And worst case scenario, just go back to my old workplace if I need to.
Okay, cool. So this is a really, really good case point, because there's a lot of people who, whenever they're thinking about quitting their job or doing something else, it's that difficult question of when's the tipping point? How do I live? When do I live? How do I sustain myself? And how do I make that decision? So at this point, you've got an Instagram page, you've got a landing page.
Yeah.
That doesn't equal customers. It's
No.
a route to customers, but it doesn't
Yeah.
equal customers, right? So were you making money at this point?
I was making money. I wasn't making anywhere near what I was earning at
Working for
work.
an asset management firm, right?
Yeah. But yeah, I was making money and I had customers. And for me, that was like one of the requirements of me like quitting was that I actually had paying customers. And then the second one was energetically, I didn't have capacity to do both. So I always say that if I could have run Treasure Tress and held down my asset management job, I absolutely would be doing that to this day because why not? But it wasn't possible for me to do both. Like, it wasn't physically possible for me to do both.
Yeah.
So having customers was one requirement, but equally having the energy to do either well was absolutely a requirement because I didn't want to shortchange myself at work. Like, I don't think it's fair that if someone's paying you a salary that you give them the bare minimum. That's not fair. So at work, I tried to show up 100% until the very, very end.
Yeah.
Likewise, at Treasure Tress, tried to show up 100% until it got to the point where I was like, I can only balance one of these. So let me go with Treasure Tress and see what happens.
Let me ask a question. Okay, I won't ask that question because it's too direct. I was going to say, how much are you making at Treasure Tress at the time? Because there's a reason why I'm asking it, because I'm trying to help people process how to make this decision. But let's just say you were making more money from your asset management position.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right? So you had a decision to make. You were at a crossroads.
Yeah.
Why don't you just go and sit your ass down and make your money at the asset management instead of this wild west that I'm about to go into now? I don't know where my next customer is coming from. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to make money next month. Or why make that decision?
I think the business model helped in that it was subscription, it was recurring revenue. So I did know where my next, like, I knew when the next influx of cash was coming into the business.
But that was the base though, right?
That was the base.
Yeah.
But two, I was 23 and I was like, again, remember, I've already lost one of my best friends, right? So I know that time is of the essence. And I know that at 23, there's no major responsibilities. Like, I had one thing that I needed to pay every month and that was it. And I was like, do you know what? Like, if I don't take this risk now, when am I going to do it? Because I want to have kids. I want to get married. I want to build a family. Like, when else am I going to have less to lose than I have now? So I was like, time is of the essence. Let me do it now because I might not have this opportunity again. But also, I'm a saver. So I saved a lot of my money while I was at asset management. So I wasn't going into this like, oh, there's no money in my bank account and I've got this business idea. There was money in my bank account and I was pursuing this business idea. But I definitely underestimated how quickly that money runs out when you're living from it.
Because they're still investing as well, right? So just a couple of things to take away from that. You know, three things that I took away from that. So if you're thinking about leaving in a position to, you know, maybe go and venture into your own business, number one is you have to actually make the plan. Not make the plan from today, but make the plan 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months out. Because then you can actually start saving and start preparing yourself, obviously monetarily, but also mentally for what's actually about to happen as well. Second thing,
and I think mentally there's only so much you can do because I was shocked on the first day. But we'll come back to that.
Okay, cool. So that's the first point. The first point is you actually have to prepare yourself both financially and mentally. The second point is, you know, you got to understand, it doesn't matter if you want to make that decision today, tomorrow, next year, 2 years, 3 years time. At any point that you make that decision, it's going to be a risk. It doesn't matter if you got money in the bank. Money doesn't guarantee you success, right?
Absolutely.
It's going to be a risk. So why not just take that jump and do it? And then the third thing, some of you are not going to qualify for this, but if you're still young, right, then that's the best time to actually do it, because this is the point where you should be taking all the risk in the world because you've got less to lose. I've got a daughter now. I've got a missus. I can't just make certain hectic decisions because you've got other people to worry about. But when you're in that position, when, you know, you're still, you know, quite young, you don't have too much responsibilities, that's the time to make that decision to actually go for something, right?
And I think the reality of it is, even if you are later on in life and you have got more responsibilities, the reality is that you're the youngest you're ever going to be today. So there's like, you can't look back and regret and think, oh my God, I'm 50 now with 3 kids and a partner. And I wish that when I was 25, I launched this business. Like, that's not going to help you. You can't go back in time. You're not going to get a rerun of this life. So in reality, today's the youngest you're going to ever be. So you may as well do do what you feel like you need to do in order to live a fulfilled life.
Facts. You know that Chinese proverb? Yeah.
No.
You've probably heard it when I say it. So it says the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The next best time.
Today.
Yeah, it's no point of living in regret. What's
Yeah.
happened has happened, but today you've got another opportunity to make that
Absolutely.
decision that you wanted to make 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Because 20 years from now, you could be saying, oh my God, I'm so glad that I made that decision. Now look at my life, right?
Exactly.
So just get started.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, cool. So you made the jump into this deep, dark black hole, not knowing what, where the light was. But you made that decision. You went for it. But actually, from what you're saying, you went for it with your eyes wide open. You had someone in the bank. You knew that life was short, right? And this is something that you were passionate about. So you knew it wasn't going to be easy. But you're like, you know what? I don't care. I'm doing this, right? Which is great. What happens next?
Boy, I remember day one when the first Monday came and I had a calendar in front of me and a notebook, and I was like, okay, before I was complaining that I didn't have enough time, now I've got all the time in the world. I don't know what I'm meant to be doing. And so I remember saying to myself, Jamelia, just think about the next logical thing that you need to do. Maybe it's the next meeting that you need to set up. Maybe it's the next email that you need to send. Maybe it's the next email campaign that you need to construct. But just think about the next thing and just keep putting one foot in front of the next, because otherwise, like, you'll just sit there in paralysis. Like, you don't know what to do. So you start panicking and you do nothing. But I was like, just put one foot in front of the next. But I just didn't expect that. I thought that I was going to quit. And then on day one, I was going to be like, feeling like I'm on top of the world, like everything was going to just conspire to make the business blow. And I was like, no, this is actually like...
Just got real.
It got real. Like, I have to figure it out for myself. And there's no one that I can turn to say like, hey, like, what's my task for today? Or like, hey, what's the project that we're working on? I'm the director of it all. So for me, it was quite a humbling experience. But going back to the passing of my friend Jade, what she also taught me, or what her passing taught me, was that I think it really just made me really determined to make sure that I had an impact. Because I remember when she passed, and the thing that shook me up the most was that the world didn't change. Like, I remember going to the shop and everyone was going about their day on campus like nothing had happened. And that absolutely blew my mind, because I was like, what? Hold on a minute. Do you mean that, like, something can happen to me today and it will have no impact on anyone else?
Wow.
And that was absolutely wild. And I even remember like reading back our text messages, and like, I think Facebook was like the biggest social media platform. So like, even going on her Facebook page, and once like 2 or 3 months had passed, everyone else had cracked on with their life and was no longer thinking about her. And even to this day, like, if I was to Google her name, it takes a deep search to even see that she ever lived. And for me, that was like really harrowing, because I was like, imagine if like you're here and when you go, there's not a trace of you left. And granted, in 100 years, 200 years, there's definitely not going to be. But I was like, it sounds a little bit egotistical now that I say it out loud, but a part of me was like, when I pass, I want people to know that I even lived and that I actually done something. And so I think when it was day one of entrepreneurship, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to figure it out. And I'm going to take it day by day. But the most important thing is that I'm trying to create something bigger than myself.
Wow. Do you understand, like, the power of what you just said there? I don't know if everyone really understands what you're saying there, but it's so powerful. People talk about actually being in contact with death. It's not something that I've been able to actually master, if I'm completely honest. Not out of fear, but it's just not something that's kind of worked for me. Like, let me think about my death and immortality and things like that, right? But I understand how, if you have that, because I've tried to, because I know how much that would motivate me, right? But I mean, I want to live legacies and all these things for different reasons, because of my daughter and things like that. And, the childhood that I had, and how much I don't really want my future generations to have that. So that's what's kind of driving me. But having that idea, and to you, it's very, very vivid. Like, if I go tomorrow, no one remembers. Like, that's mad. Like, that can't happen.
Very mad.
So when you're sitting there in those difficult times, that's what I talk about, push and pull. Like, having something that's pulling you. When you're in that difficult moment and your mind's telling you to quit, and you're like, no one knows me. No one knows me. No. We've got to keep going, because, like, I don't know what tomorrow holds. And it's so important for people to understand, like, you've got to have something that's your North Star, something that you're working towards, something that drives you. And, Tony Robbins talks about pain and pleasure. Those are the two motivating factors.
Yeah.
You know, it could be you're heading towards pleasure or you're moving away from pain.
Yeah.
That's one of the two things. So you got to figure out what that is for you and make it happen, and just keep that in your mind every single day and just allow that to drive you. Because if you don't have something like that, it's a lot easier to just, you know, fall into the abyss and just let life take you away.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I wouldn't say that like people knowing me is my driving force.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I could be doing anything to make my name reach a lot further than it is. But I think for me, it was like the contribution, it would need to outlive me. Like, yeah, the contribution would need to outlive me outside of like knowing my name, knowing my face. Like, what I've brought to the world, I want it to stand the test of time. And I think for me, that was very harrowing. Like, I have such amazing memories of her. Like, we had the best time. She was like, everyone in my uni was from South London, which meant that they all went to the same college. So everyone knew each other. And then there were just a few of us who, outside of that circle, didn't have that history with everyone else. And she was one of them. So we've got amazing memories. And I know how much she meant to me. But I'm just like, maybe it's like, I don't know, this language is a bit weird to use in this situation, but it's like, how could I scale that impact? So how can I scale the relationship that we had so that other people are able to experience that as well? And I think that's what you're able to do through business. Like, you're able to have an experience with your customer, but you're able to scale it by reaching more customers. So giving more people that impact. And that for me is like the driving force. Like, how many women can I translate this feeling onto?
Wow. So powerful, man. Okay, cool. So that's obviously a driving force for you. And it's something that, you know, I can see is very, very evident that it's still with you today, right? Which is good. Like, it's got to remind you every single day to keep pushing. But how do you feel like that translates into, you know, the type of brand and the business that you're building today?
The brand that I'm building today, how that translates, I would say it's pretty evident. Like, quite early on, people started using the term sisterhood to describe Treasure Tress before we even adopted it. And they were like, yeah, when I come to your events, it just feels like a sisterhood. Like, this community feels like sisterhood. And that to me was like, oh, how funny, because like my female friendships are like one of my most treasured things. So to be able to scale that so that other women can experience that as well is amazing to me. So I would say that it definitely shows up in the relationships that customers are able to form with each other, the women in our community can form with each other, but also the role that we can play in other people's lives. So a really direct example of that is that in 2018, we launched something called the Teen Experience, which was a series of personal development workshops for Black and mixed race girls between the ages of 12 to 19. And I wanted to start that because I thought, when I was in secondary school and I was struggling with self-image, I went to Brownies, I went to like my local youth club. There were so many social situations that I could go to where I'd see people that looked like me and learn new skills. But in today's day and age, where do you go? You go online and you just hope that your child stumbles across the right video, right? Or the right content creators. And so we started creating these safe spaces for these young girls. And that for me was like a direct reflection of like the teachings and the knowledge that I wish I had at a younger age and being able to impart that on a whole new generation.
Powerful, man. It's powerful. Like, I just love seeing when people actually take their inspiration and bring it into the business, because that's something, you know, that's why I started this podcast, right? Like, it's those things, you know, the business. So I've got a property business, but I've also got a coaching business where I coach people to do what I do as well, because it's like my lived experience. I don't really want anyone to go through that, right? But I also understand that people might not understand their capabilities. It's weird, and I always say this, right? Even when I was in our darkest moments, like being homeless and stuff like that, right? People know this. I never, in those moments, I saw the way people looked at me. Don't get me wrong. So every day I had to live with other people's vision of me. But I never, ever thought that I wasn't going to be where I am today and even further to the place I'm going. I never had that insecurity, which is insane. And I want other people to understand that it doesn't matter where you are right now.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you can absolutely achieve anything that you want to achieve. Just go follow the right processes, the right system. You got to believe in yourself. You got to have the right tools, but you can do it.
Yeah.
Right. So that's in my business. That's in every fabric of my businesses. And, you know, I just love seeing that, you know, that you've kind of taken your own lived experience and your passions into your business as well. It's really cool to see.
Oh, thank you. I didn't know your story. Can I ask you about it?
No, you didn't.
Maybe on another episode.
It's so good. Oh, you said, can you ask me
Yes.
about it? Yeah, of course you can. Yeah. I thought you said, did you ask me about
Oh.
it? No. What was I going to say? Okay, cool. So, like in your business now then, can you just tell, so for those who don't actually really understand, exactly what your business is, what your business does, because, for me, this is incredible. Like when I first came across it, I was like, she's doing like, this is like, I've got a daughter now, 2-year-old, mixed race, curly hair, all of this. So I'm like, okay, cool. I love seeing this. But also you can see examples of people like yourself,
Yeah.
right? Which is really, really cool. There's not too many in the UK, like you said. In America, cool. There's a whole bunch, right? In the UK, not too many. So what exactly is your business and what is it that you guys do?
Sure. So my business is called Treasure Tress, and we're a product discovery service. So we help you find the products that work for you. So one thing that I learned really early on is that you don't actually know if a product works for you unless you try it yourself. But equally, trying your products yourself can get really expensive really quickly. Because as mentioned, in uni, I was spending like £80 a month trying new products. So you pay, our subscriptions start at £25. You pay £25 a month and we send you new products to try every month. So sometimes it's a range of it's products from the same range. So like shampoo, deep conditioner, leave-in, oil from one brand, or it can be a combination of different brands. But the idea is that it's wash day delivered. So everything that you need to take care of your hair arrives in that box, and it lasts you for a month. If it lasts you longer, then you can push out your next box. But it's a super flexible subscription.
That's crazy. What do you call it? Wash day delivery. Your
Wash
marketing
day
terms are on point, I said, like, before we got on stage, I was like, listen, you ain't got to sell to me. Like, it's cool. Do you know what I mean? But I love it. Like, how many products actually cater to, black hair in the UK right now?
That's a tough question to ask. Yeah, that's a tough question to
It
ask.
was easy to ask, but, to answer
To answer, sorry. That's a tough question to answer, but I will say that in comparison to products that cater to other ethnicities, all you have to do is walk into your local health and beauty high street retailer and compare the aisle for straight hair versus the section for curly hair, and it will answer your questions. Thankfully, we are in a very much globalized world, right? Which means that we do have the benefit of trying products from other countries, with US being the market leader when it comes to textured hair. The growth in the UK, we've got a long way to go, especially as far as distribution and the accessibility to quality products, which is pretty much why we exist. But when we look at the stats of how well catered to black women are versus how much we spend, there's a huge disparity. So black women account for 2% of the population in the UK, but 10% of the spend on beauty. Typically, we spend almost 7 times more on beauty than white women do. But yet we're not catered to in the same way. And if you go to your shop, your local high street store, you'll see that there's a huge difference. But equally, it's allowed us to carve out a really strong niche, and it's allowed us to become market leaders and actually educate high street retailers, educate the brands directly on what they need to do to cater to the textured hair consumer better than they already are.
And that's actually, that's the question that I'm trying to ask. Is the lack of access in the storefront a reflection of the volume of products actually available?
No, not at all. Like there's a ridiculous amount. We've been going for 8 years and we're able to bring you fresh products monthly. That means that there's a hell of a lot of products. Not to mention the speed of R&D, like one brand in particular, Shea Moisture, I would say like 2019, the speed at which they were bringing out new ranges, I would say that there were easily like 8 new ranges a year from one brand, which means for us, that's like 8 boxes, right? And there's only 12 months in the year. So the speed at which textured hair products are being produced is very, very high. Not to mention the range of brands. There's like the conglomerates that own all of the massive beauty brands that are trying to get into the curly hair market. Then there's the like brands that are born out of kitchens that are also available on the internet. Like there's a ridiculous amount of products available, but it's just not reflected in the storefront, which is why we exist and which is why we do our own pop-up shops to really highlight and amplify the brands that do exist for textured hair.
Absolutely. That was the point. I'm glad you highlighted it. That was the point I wanted you to highlight, because the truth is that that's the great job that you guys are doing, because it's not about, because people are sitting there like, oh yeah, like textured hair, there's no products on the market. No, There's a whole bag of products on the market.
Absolutely.
You just don't know about it, but they don't need to know about it because all they got to know is about treasure trees. And then
Treasure
you guys,
Tress.
treasure tress, tress. Sorry, it's not two A's, it's two S's. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Treasure tress.
Yes.
Right. And you guys will actually, it's almost like you're gonna introduce them to this world, and they can keep trying a whole bunch of products, whether it's for a month, 2 months, 6 months, 12 months,
Exactly.
until they try the whole bunch, and now they can understand which ones they actually like,
Absolutely.
what works best for them. So you guys are the one-stop shop for discoverability.
Absolutely.
Right? Okay, brilliant stuff. That's but let's touch on this topic. We can't finish this without touching on this topic because listen, I'm very I was born in Nigeria.
Okay.
I'm a very proud Nigerian man.
Okay.
Yeah, I love my people.
I've never met a Nigerian man that isn't proud. Consumerism today is not what it was yesterday. Like, consumers are led by stories. They're connected to founders. They want to know the vision. They want to know the history. There's only a certain number of stories that these big brands can tell. So what you're starting to see is that the big brands are buying smaller brands because they need to inherit that integrity, that authenticity, and that story. So
What do you think about that?
I think a win is a win, if I'm being honest. Like, there was a
I
lot
respect it.
there was a lot of backlash for like a lot of black founders who sold their brands to like big conglomerates, but these are people who have been grinding for 25 years. And when we think about impact, it was a way for them to scale impact. So they're able to make sure that their products reach more consumers who need their products in a faster way. Not to mention, and this is something that I heard the founder of Shea Moisture, Richelieu Dennis, say. He said that if he didn't sell Shea Moisture when he did, they were going to copy his formulation and wipe out his brand anyway. So it's like, pretty much it was like sell or die. That was the choice. And when he sold, he was able to buy back Essence magazine, buy Essence Festival, and start a VC fund. So when we think about impact, if he was only thinking about himself, he would have held on to it and allowed it to die. But in my mind, and from what I can gather from what I've heard him say on the internet, he was able to sell his brand, but then invest even more deeply in the black community, and has invested in so many other black founders to show them how to scale their brands to multi-millions as well. So yeah, I changed my stance. I think initially, and I think as a people, our first thing to say is like, oh, they sold out. But when you think about it beyond like that transaction alone, the impact the ripple effect that it has on so many other brands and the industry in whole makes a huge difference. Like, because he sold Shea Moisture, now retailers are open to stocking more textured hair brands because everyone's looking for the next Shea Moisture. Like, there actually is a wider impact that it has on everyone else that isn't visible at a glance. Or I think I only feel this way because I am in such close proximity to these brands that I can understand the full picture. But I think sometimes we do need to look beyond the headlines and think, actually, like, as a people, how does this elevate us? Because a lot of founders, they start something because they really, really care. And so when they get even more money, it means that they're able to care even more and have a bigger impact.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think I get it from both sides, but but the reality is, I can get it from both sides, but here's the reality: the only way that you can stop a corporation from wiping you out is if government intervenes, which they're not, because they're driven by corporations' money anyway.
Yeah.
So if you don't sell, they're gonna wipe you out, and there's no one there to save you. So what are you gonna do?
Absolutely.
Right. That's it. Honestly, man, this has been such an interesting conversation. I
It
loved
has.
it. Yeah. It's gone so many places that I wasn't expecting it to.
Likewise.
But so good. Really, really enjoyed it. So there's a final question. Remember the one I said there's two?
Yeah,
You
I'm
forgot
quite
and you
scared
got
of what
relaxed.
this is
You got
gonna be.
relaxed and you forgot about the next one. It's not bad. The first one was quite benign, right?
Yeah, I mean, it got deep quite quickly.
Yeah, it did. But that's that the design to it. And this one, you're gonna answer it and we're gonna end it there.
Okay.
All right. So it's, with everything that you've achieved
Yes.
now, which is a lot. And to be honest, like, just sitting across you, like, the fire is burning. I feel like you have still got a long way to go. Like, you are.
I agree.
I can sense it. I can feel it, which is incredible, and it can only do good, right? But with everything that you have achieved, like, what remains your need to succeed?
Like, what keeps me going?
Yeah.
I would say everything that I've spoken about today, but one thing that I continuously remind myself I'm going to throw in a few quotes because I love quotes, right? But I always remind myself that like I didn't come this far to only come this far. And when I say I'm not talking about just me. I'm genuinely talking about like the lineage that I come from, right? So my grandma came over during the Windrush. My family's Jamaican. And she was a trained teacher in Jamaica, doing really well. When she got to the UK, they stripped her of all of her qualifications. She had to start from scratch. And so I always think about like the tenacity that she had to have to come here and build a new life. I can't now come in as a new generation and just think that I can just like cruise through life. I feel like if I got this far, I have to go so much further than my parents did, than my grandparents did, and further down my line. And then there's a quote that I like, and I can't remember it now. I can't remember it, but there's another one that I like as well, which is "You are your ancestors' wildest dreams," right? So I always think about like, wow, like how far can I push this? Like how far can I really go considering where we started? So yeah, I would say that I'm pretty much driven by like my family history and like the ability to take my family where we've never been before.
Wow. You are your ancestors' wildest dreams. Perfect. Jamelia, thank you very much.
Thank you. I've really enjoyed this.
So did I. You are listening to the Need to Succeed podcast with Ibrahim Brahma. Make sure to like and subscribe for more episodes like this.